I was planning to attend Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell's first service at his new venue 2 Sundays ago in Atlanta. The building was so packed, and it wasn't even Easter yet. It was so packed, and I couldn't even get in. Okay, I was outside the club. At first, I thought, wow, look at God expanding his territory. And I still think that. But it was what I heard afterward that completely shocked me. I know it's been a couple of weeks, but this needs to be said. And it's not just about what was said, but we have to talk about the why it was outrageous. Pastor Mitchell made a statement during that service that echoed beyond the sanctuary. Take a listen.
Stop blaming white cops for the killing of black kids. Instead, teach your black children to be obedient towards authority. And I don't care if most of y'all are black. You need to teach your children to obey authority. We need to teach our sons and daughters to obey authority. We need to teach our children to not fight against authority, not fight against cops, not rebel. Be model citizens. Stop being rebellious towards authority. I don't care. I don't care. When I was 15 years old, I'm walking down Hollis in Queens. And an Italian cop drove right by me. And I locked eyes with the cop, and we stared at each other, and he drove by. My ego and his ego. No cameras, no iPhones, no social media, no recordings. And then he says one word to me. Listen to what he says to me. Listen to what he says to me. He says to me, watch, say something. In that moment with that Glock pressed to my head, I got to make a decision. Either my ego is going to be strong, or my submission to authority is going to be stronger than my ego.
Black kids aren't getting shot down by cops because they're black, but because they don't respect authority. Let's be clear. That is a dangerous narrative, especially from a black pastor to a mostly black congregation and a growing global audience. It tells the world that if we, black people, black boys, black women, black children, just respected authority, that our children would be alive. But history tells us otherwise. We're in a political climate right now where racist people, racist white evangelicals, racist spiritual leaders, and white supremacists love to quote political leaders and tie that in with the Bible. Misinformation, flesh, false prophets. And they also love to quote black leaders to prop up their narratives. And now they have another quote to add to their lies and their dangerous rhetoric. Mitchell's words will probably be clipped, shared, and not only divided amongst us, the church folks, but weaponized against us by those folks. This is not just theoretical. This is life and death. Life and death, because we had people like George Floyd who complied and the officers took his life. We had Elijah McClain who was polite and soft-spoken and apologized for being who he was, asking for forgiveness, and they took his life. Tamir Rice was 12 years old, and police gave him no time to comply, and they took his life. Philando Castile told the officer he had a legal firearm, and they took his life in front of a child. Trayvon Martin was walking home with Skittles. He was followed and murdered by someone who wanted to be a cop. That same person was acquitted. So tell me, where was the disrespect? Black children are not dying because they're disobedient. They're dying because of systemic racism, white supremacy, over policing, and a legal system that excuses state-sanctioned violence. Sermons like this shift the blame away from violent institutions and onto the backs of Black families, especially mothers and fathers who are already mourning their children. It's the same tired narrative of respectability politics that's never protected us. So how dare he suggest that obedience is the antidote to racism? Pastor Mitchell later apologized after the public outcry, saying, "My local congregation, our digital disciples, and all the people watching me expecting to see an example of what true discipleship of Christ looks like. That includes acknowledging when you have made a misstep or been wrong. Due to the size of my platform, I am learning that my words carry more weight and influence than I even sometimes can fathom or acknowledge. I will be aware, more aware, and cognizant of that moving forward. Again, I sincerely apologize for any hurt that I've caused. I have prayed for all those affected. Yes, he apologized, and I absolutely know that grace is necessary. But so is accountability. Because for many of us, this was not just a poor choice of words, it was spiritual malpractice. Again, it was fleshly. The pulpit is not a place to mismanage the souls of people already burdened by injustice. When a leader publicly missteps, especially on an issue as deadly as state violence against Black lives, a sincere apology becomes the first act of restoration, but not the final one. Without accountability, the pulpit becomes a podium for unchecked harm. Now, for over a week, I said nothing. I contemplated, I prayed about it. Why? Because, like many believers, and as somebody who works in politics, and I challenge leaders every day on their misinformation and their negative rhetoric, dangerous rhetoric against Black people. But like many believers, that old fear crept in, that childhood teaching in the church, biblical, where it states, touch not my anointed. That biblical verse has been weaponized in the Black church, not to protect God's will, but to shield men from accountability. That's not biblical, that's abuse. Let's look at the word. While we can talk about touch not my anointed, the word also says in James 3, verse 1, not many of you should become teachers, my fellow believers, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly. First Timothy 5:20 says, but those elders, right? Those leaders, those elders who are sinning, you are to reprove before everyone so that the others may take warning. Accountability is not rebellion, it's righteous. What broke my heart even more was seeing other believers attacking those who expressed valid concerns. It was so much division online amongst this topic. I saw people from the church defending the statement, not because it was right, but out of a misplaced loyalty to the pulpit, to the pastor. We should never be afraid to hold our leaders accountable. Silence in the face of harmful rhetoric allows it to grow. It forces people to choose between their faith and their integrity. That's not what God has called us to do. I don't think so, because Jesus flipped tables, not because people were too loud, but because injustice was happening in his father's house. So here's my word for the church and church people. And this is as a believer, not as a pastor, and also as somebody who is a journalist in politics. Correction is not hate, accountability is not division, and calling out a pastor in love and in truth is not dishonor. We got to reclaim the pulpit as a place of prophetic truth, not political compliance. That's the other side. Let's be clear. Jesus never said respectability would save us, but he did say that truth will. And today, I hope you decide to choose truth. This has been another Let's Be Clear. I'm Rebecca Azor. Love you. Mean it. God bless you. See you next time.